have, at the end of my debate on the motion of thanks to the King's address on the 8th of March 2016, submitted a notice of motion to amend the said motion of thanks in the following, by adding the following word, quote, and resolves that the oil and gas royalty as compensation in lieu of oil and gas rights payable to Sarawak be increased from the present 5% to 20%, unquote. Being an amendment motion, the Speaker of the House has to accept and put the same to a vote at the end of the debate before the original motion of thanks is to put to vote in the House. Being a motion of the Parliament, once it is passed, the federal government has no choice but to carry out and execute the resolution of the Parliament. A motion passed in the Parliament has a binding effect on the federal government, unlike a motion in the Dun, which is binding only on the state government, but not binding on the federal government. In May 2014, the Sarawak Dun passed a motion to give mandate to the state government to demand for the increase in the Sarawak oil and gas royalty as compensation in lieu of oil and gas rights from the present 5% to 20%. The motion had a unanimous support from both sides of the Dun. However, 22 months has passed and still nothing comes out of it. The federal government has shown clearly that it is not willing to give in to the demand for 20% oil and gas royalty for Sarawak. The excuse given is a drop in international oil price. And sad to say, instead of advancing the demand for the 20% oil royalty, the state government has retreated. What was once the top priority in Adina's agenda is now relegated to the last matter to demand. Alright, in fact, the drop in oil prices is the best time for Sarawak to get 20% oil royalty, because given the low oil prices, the amount involved in the increase from the 5% to 20% will not be as much had the oil prices is at 100 USD per barrel. Previously, with international oil price at USD per barrel, the incremental 15% will be an additional approximately 5 billion from the federal government to Sarawak state government. Now, given that the international oil price has dropped by 60%, this incremental 15% will be approximately 2 billion only from the federal government to the state government. It will not be as much a strain on the federal coffer as before. Other reasons why now is the best time for Sarawak to get the 20% oil royalty are: 1. The federal government has just received extra windfall revenue from the implementation of GST in 2015, where exceeded its originally estimated budget. 2. The number of Sarawak BN MPs holds the key to the federal government. Najib and his cabinet owe their positions to the 25 Sarawak BN MP, and thus the Sarawak's wishes ought to be given priority. What more to say? It is a unanimous resolution of the Sarawak Dun. Alright, the situation could be different after the 14 GE. And third reason, Sarawak elections is just around the corner, and Najib needs a bigger BN win in Sarawak to secure or consolidate his position as the Prime Minister. If even with such favorable conditions, the federal government is still not willing to return to Sarawak state government the 20% oil and gas royalty, then there is no hope of Sarawak getting the said 20% oil and gas royalty from within the BN. However, if my amendment motion were to get the majority of the House support, then the federal government will have no choice but to carry out the resolution of the House. Out of the 222 MPs in the House, there are in total 134 BN MPs. Now minus 2, namely Safi'i Abda, Semprona, and Muhyiddin Pago. The opposition has 87 MPs and 1 independent, Khalid Ibrahim Bandar Tun Razak. The opposition side of the House will support my amendment motion. As for the BN side, there are 25 Sarawak BN MPs. If these 25 Sarawak BN MPs support my amendment motion, then the BN will at most have 107, whereas the opposition will have 112, without taking into consideration the inclination or whichever way that the 3 independent MPs will vote. It is now up to the 25 BN MPs from Sarawak to give the nod, and this amendment motion will get through, and Sarawak will get its 20% oil and gas royalty. The voting will take place at the end of the winding up by the ministers in the House on 24th March 2016. 24th March 2016. I hereby urge and challenge Adinan to put his words about the oil and gas rights into action by directing his 25 Sarawak BN MPs to vote for and support my amendment motion in the House on the 24th March 2016. If Sarawak wants true autonomy, it needs the revenue of its own as of rights, not the constant begging for more from the federal government. And this 20% oil and gas royalty is one way to increase the state's revenue as of rights. We hope Adinan is true to his words about fighting for the interests of Sarawak and direct his 25 Sarawak BN MPs to support my amendment motion. Do not put the wish and interest of Najib and UMNO over the interest of Sarawak. Thank you. All right. Okay. Any question? No. Thank you.